Welcome to a new interview of the CIL China BenCham podcast initiative. In front of me today, Baudouin Snel. Thank you for coming.
Welcome.
I hope on a lot of interesting stories. So much experience in front of me. So
Sure.
Let's start.
Sure.
Can you give a short introduction about yourself?
Well, I come from Belgium, from Brussels. I arrived, I think, it's very funny because my first experience in China was here, Guangzhou, almost in this tower, because I started working in China for Carrefour, and then they wanted to start their first store in Guangzhou, here, and they failed. They went to Shanghai and Beijing, but just for the fun, it's the supermarket that's downstairs should have been a Carrefour, and it's a Japanese store. Anyway, and so 25 years in China. I arrived in '93. I went back a bit to Belgium. From '97 to 2003, I worked for the Belgian company called Van der Gaten, which was the first one to import Belgian beer in China. Duvel, Chimay, Garden, we started all. And then I stopped for different reasons. We'll explain later. And then went back to work more in sourcing. I also represent Brussels region for 6-7 years as an independent consultant. So I had the chance to represent my country and try to attract Chinese investors to Belgium. And then after that also worked 4 or 5 years for a Belgian company who sell a lot of equipment to Africa. So I developed the China-Africa business. This is something quite special and interesting. And then after a while, with the election not coming up, we wait for 3-year election in Congo anyway. We stopped that business and now do again importation of Belgian beer.
So 25 years? That's
yes,
right?
Roughly.
Roughly,
I don't count, anymore.
So you came here for Carrefour, you said, right?
Yeah, I came for Carrefour, and in fact, my first assignment was I slept in the White Swan Hotel, which at the time was the center of the city, not anymore.
Shanghai Island, right?
Which now it's totally far away. So we negotiated a joint venture, and at the end, it's frankly, Guangzhou at that time was a bit the economic center of China, which is not at all anymore. But at that time, the Cantonese were very cocky, and they think they had the very tough in negotiation, and then Carrefour sent them to hell, and then and then they do the first store in Beijing and in Shanghai. And they came 10 years later for Guangzhou. So, but it's a bit the history of Guangzhou in short, though.
That's where you started then, right?
Yeah.
And what kept you until now? Only the business? What kept you in China?
I think I was attracted by China since the beginning, though. I learned Chinese a bit in Taiwan. My wife is Taiwanese. And first there was the love for the language and the culture, but I also a lot of business potential. And the fast speed, and like many people in China, they come for a lot of excitement, a lot of opportunity, although we can put a question mark on that. And then, but still a definitely exciting career.
So that kept you really in China.
Yeah.
So like, do you see yourself being in China the coming years still, or?
Well, I'm 55, so
very young.
Yes, I still have at least 10 years to go. I feel at least my wife is Chinese. I'm half Chinese. I have to say, when I go back to Belgium, people take me for a China guy, and they say you are too much Chinese. So for me, I look forward to go back to Belgium every 3-4 months, but. We are a bit half Chinese, I'd say.
Over a while you probably become.
It's inevitable.
So the coming period still being busy with your business?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit more about what your company is actually doing now?
Our company called China Euro Service, in fact, initially did more consulting or investment advising for Chinese going to Belgium. Maybe we started that a bit too early. No, maybe it would be a good time, but it happens that somewhere I got involved back in the beer business. To a Belgian company was looking to take over their business, because a Belgian company who come here from scratch and they want to open a company to do that, very, very tough. I don't recommend it. So they asked me to take it over, which I did. And then we expand other beer line, other beer brand. Basically, very short, we have 3 business lines. One is branded product, where we are agent. The best known beer we have in China is called Pink Killer. It's a white beer with grapefruit juice. Then we have another range, which is lager beer in cans to fight the Germans and to provide cheap beer to supermarkets or private labels. As another range. And the third range is more supply chain. So people want a container of Trappist beer, we can provide. Okay, so because some of these products some of these products are 50% is parallel import. Due for many reasons. So basically we become a supply chain, and we may be only the 5th or the 10th guy who do this importation. So it's not like we just started. But we provide a better service, and also we try to provide more legal documents, like we do VAT invoice, we do all the legal documents which many importers sometimes don't do. Okay. So it's a plus. It's
advantage, right?
Right.
Okay, and who are your main clients? Your main clients are, of course, Chinese customers, or am I wrong?
Yes. Basically, depends on the business line. Like the typical branded product, we sell it to wholesalers who do not import usually, and they are all over China, naturally mostly on the coast: Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Xiamen, Tianjin, even some inside. We need to add other importer of a distributor, but there we provide first the importation, the marketing support, we stock, we have a stock, we deliver, we issue VAT invoice, we do all what the typical importer distributor does. And then other customers, for instance, for the private label of the cheap lager business, this is supermarket chains who usually come to us, we want our own beer, can you import for us? We sell 2 containers every time. And some of them are importers who want a special item. For instance, we sell a 16% beer, lager, regular lager like Heineken is 5%. Well, we sell a 16%, so it's 3 times more alcohol. And some part of China, they like that. I don't like it, but there's a market for it, so we sell these kind of items. And there's sometimes a development, there's an importation work, there's a discussion with the importer, with the exporter, there's a whole kind of service we provide, in fact.
Okay, so from all the way around, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And by operating this business here, what are the pros and cons when operating a business in China in your eyes?
Okay. In my business, I would say that first, the market is moving very rapidly, that the customers are open to new brands. For the story, I started Boddington 15 years ago in the previous company. I didn't know that beer at all. It's the cream of Manchester. It's a typical English beer, look a bit like Kilkenny. Why I say that? Because I didn't know that beer at all. It belongs to Interbrew, who is the big Belgian group who bought Budweiser. I mean, it should be sold in Belgium, which is not, because Belgian market is very closed, very conservative. People drink the same beer for 20 years. In China, here, a guy can drink this beer, next year bring another one, and the third year bring another one. Exactly. Some beer can die over 5 years, and then it's passed to something else. So the market is open, but at the other side, very competitive. So, and the growth potential is huge. The market itself become very big, maybe the biggest market in the world already. And although for craft beer, it's still small, but going big. And also maybe because everybody dreams about this market, it becomes very, very competitive. Because every brewery, and especially from Germany, every brewery comes here and dreams, and they're going to sell 100 containers. Then sometimes they end up to kill their price. Then everybody's crying because this is the sad story of the German beer. So you have maybe 30 breweries who are selling their beer, and every day cheaper and cheaper, and it's all at the end of the day, it's all very similar beer.
Yeah. But will that eventually, in your eyes, will it eventually not make a healthy correction? That eventually the good brands will stay, and therefore you should still make use of this pro?
I don't know if the good brands stay, because if you look at the lager, I was there 15 years ago when the big lager, the big brewery in the world came. Carlsberg, Foster, Beck's, everybody basically. Beer that you don't see even in Belgium or in Europe. They all came and they lost a lot of money, and a lot of them go home. Budweiser is the only one almost who stay, and he's the strongest and the richest, and he can afford the most losses. Yeah. So I don't know if the best stay. For me, Budweiser is not the best beer. No. That's a bit the name. This is maybe for lager. I would say that the Chinese consumer get more and more, they climb up the value chain very quite rapidly. Yeah. So they want more and more expensive beer and sophisticated beer. So the customer always wants better, much more faster than in Europe. Yeah. People in Europe can buy the same lager for 20 years and they are happy with that. So yes, it's an advantage that the customer always want better products, and they're ready to change. But
so there is an opportunity always, in fact.
Yeah, but it's also dangerous that you don't have a brand loyalty as much as you have in Europe.
Yeah, so that's a con, in fact.
It's a con, pro and con. I mean, you can catch a wave, but you better keep it.
Yeah, indeed. And then eventually, how you do it will eventually decide if you're successful. Okay. That would be. Is there another con, for example, on the import side that you say, like, here are difficulties?
Yes. There are. I think the importation, although there's no more duty on beer, but the importation regarding labeling is touchy. It's much more difficult. Than for in Hong Kong, the labeling is very simple. The date, they are very picky on the date, on the production date and expiry date. In Belgium, we usually only write the expiry date. Okay. Or the production date is one or the other. In China, they want 2 dates. And they can be very picky on the labeling, Chinese labeling. Okay. If you have 1 date wrong, it's a catastrophe. Yeah. And people sometimes very picky on the expiration date. So if your beer is expired 1 day, you go to jail. I mean, it's like. Although a beer you can drink 3 months later, usually.
But it's not done.
This is a no, taboo. So you better never try that, or never forget a beer which is expired in a fridge of one of your bar. People fall on you for nothing. Even a customer in China can sue you for that. Yeah. Just for the money.
You know how it goes, right?
In Belgium, people have no time to do that.
Or certain kind of other approach to how that should be solved.
So it's a funny thing. So
okay, so that's the difference, right? And to go to differences. Right. So what makes the export to China and the distribution of products to your wholesalers different from import and export in Europe?
Okay, I feel that in some way. It's less formal. That in fact, I've very been surprised by the documentation that usually salespeople have. It's very poor. So you can sell without much documentation. If you have a good relationship and you have a good photo, okay, they can take it. In Europe, they're going to turn your product in all the way and check it out 25 times and test it 5 times and everything. So a Chinese customer can very quickly convinced. On the other side, the paperwork can be also intense, and the legal regulation can be tough. Also about branding registration, more and more online. The online company asks whether you are really the agent or not. Prove that you are the agent, that the brand is not a copy, and so and so. So, on some way, it's more easygoing. On other way, it's much more. Difficult because the custom issue in Europe is not an issue. Here, basically when you import, I don't know if you people all that, you need first to have a Chinese label registration. This is an approval process that, if you don't know, can take time. And even then you do have that every time normally the sanitary bureau have to check whether your product have this label or it is properly fixed. So when you import, you usually have to wait 1 week to 2 weeks to get the sanitary certificate, which is the document that authorizes you to sell to the store. You may have imported correctly and passed the custom and everything. You are not finished. You need a sanitary certificate for each container. So also that can be a touchy issue. People come and see, did you put it well? So that can be work if you don't know.
It will be uncertain then also if you are importing and you are not fully aware of what's ahead of you. Probably it's also uncertain if you actually can import your goods or fully import your goods.
And then even you think, I import, I can sell. No, you cannot. You need to wait the document. But I would say I've done it 20 years ago, and it's much better.
Much better already.
Much better. No doubt. So 20 years ago was. You were so busy doing that you have no time to do your sales.
Really?
Oui. And I had a Chinese partner who was more diplomat in politics than businessman, so almost have to be the Chinese guy. I was a Chinese guy in the joint venture. That's for the little story. And so I have to tell him how to do it. So at that time it was even tough. Much more than today.
So China is more able to, regulations are more able to understand, and there's a better infrastructure to go through. Yeah,
before you had to pay somebody. I mean, it was and then even importation, the custom guys would say you declare too high or too low.
Because they want to charge something.
No, there's a market price. You cannot put my market price in. Beer is so much. Cannot be more or less. I say, but it makes no sense. I mean, that's my price. I know, we don't want to know. So no, it's much better. You don't have this issue anymore.
No.
It's much more streamlined.
And as an importer, of course, there's good relations with all the exporters from Europe, right? Are there, for example, differences or situations that you will definitely meet with for example, exporters in China, which you don't meet for exporters in Belgium, for example?
Well, I can talk about, I think we're reaching a topic about the supplier in Europe. So how do the brewery or the exporter from Europe see China, and how do they work with China? And I feel after 20 years, because I started this beer business initially in '97, I was really one of the first importing beer, even before the Germans. We started Garden, we were doing 1,000 hecto. No, they do 100,000 hecto. And Nutebrew took it over. But what I mean, when we start, I was thinking 20 years later, it would be easy to work with foreign supplier, with the brewery. They know how it works after 20 years. They must know China, it must be a piece of cake. And I feel no. I feel it's not better, in fact. It's even sometimes worse. Because they have been through so many up and down. Like 5 or 10 years, there was a boom for Belgian and foreign beer in China. So everybody dreamed. Everybody got a magic contract, we didn't realize. And then there were a lot of disappointment. So and they did stupid things too. So at the end of the day, a lot of these suppliers are a little bit. In fact, I would say that China, especially in the last 5 years with the online sales and all these purchase online with the phone and all that evolution so fast that Europe is behind. So China is moving so fast and Europe is getting even more conservative. So it's really a clash.
So those exporters ignored a bit the development and are not really up to date.
They snub it, they don't take it seriously. They say what is going on in China, is it really serious? The market is big, but we hear so many horror stories. So they don't know where to stand. And the Chinese guys, they say, well, why you need 3 months to do or 4 months to do a private label? We do it in 1 month in China. I mean, why it takes you so long to reply to us? So I would say that the European supplier are too slow, too conservative.
They're not flexible towards the development.
And then they feel that China, they don't know really how to work with China, most of them. They are a bit lost. What should we do? And then also there's a lack of manpower. Usually you have one guy who do the whole world. And these are small brewery. And the rest so for poor guy, it's true that in China you may have 25 requests, which is 70% or 80% is not worth to investigate or will not go very far. So it's very hard to China compared to Germany is for Belgium. It's really a much more difficult market. But sometimes people will spend more time to develop a market like Germany or France or even USA than China because they feel, oh, it's too far away anyway, too complicated, or we have no time to go.
Yeah, or also there's a certain kind of, maybe it could have been a certain kind of ignorance, and the ignorance, if it's not in the news, it's not popular. Now China is more in the news, and suddenly people want to know things about it, right? Yeah. So in every boom, you will also have that kind of a model.
It's either. I've been 20 years in China.
Yeah.
And my brother is a lawyer in Shanghai. I say that because we talk about the same story. Yeah. People come to China just for beer, but for other stuff. Yeah. And it's usually many times either everything or nothing.
Okay.
So that the guy either open a factory and they go totally nuts, or they do nothing. They come once a year or once every 2 years. Yeah. What do you expect to do? I don't want to be negative, but I was a bit surprised that the European supplier, there's a very few, in fact, that really know how to work or really want to work in China.
We really want to work also entails that you see it as a normal market, right? And not like
I mean, it's in fact, I would say the supplier, what they should do to come to China. That may be a good topic. How to come to China, how to distribute your product in China, how to help the foreign supplier, the European brewery, to export their beer in China. I feel there is definitely a big market. It's maybe the biggest market in the world. So they could not compare it to Taiwan or even Japan or even Hong Kong. Although the market is still starting, especially for these craft beers, but they have to look it in a special way, without getting crazy, without say we're going to put 10 guys here. No, I think they need to come maybe 2-3 times a year. They maybe have one guy or at least one special agent they work with, follow him, invest a little bit marketing money, but not crazy. It's not, we're talking maybe about 5, 10, 20,000 euros. We're not talking about much money, but doing something and following it. Yeah. And but I introduced, for instance, 20 years ago, Côte d'Or in China with Carrefour. Yeah. And it cost us zero at the time, and Côte d'Or is still there. Today, if you want to do the same thing, you cannot pay for it. No. It's simple, you don't get in. No. So some way, the initial investment is still very low. And we have to think that the Chinese middle class is still very far away in the consuming habit compared to us. Yeah, also in the thinking way, right? I would say a bit the sky is the limit here. Yeah. If the people buy as much beer, just the 200, 300 million middle class, think about what's the market. Yeah. But that are the dreams. The competition also is there, but the market is definitely huge.
But you say, in fact, be a little bit humble and make sure that you just don't come here and go all the way. Start up slowly and understand the market, have people here, come here often, so that your brand will actually stay instead of be
I've seen people either they come once and then frankly it's useless to come once. You need to come 2-3 times at least. And then even have an agent that you follow and then you maybe will push your beer and other guys who open brewery or open big companies and today only in the beer only Duvel succeeded, and we don't even know if they really succeeded because they sell to each other. In the brewery who open the office, you don't know. They sell their beer, that's for sure, but
how much?
But they sell a lot, but we don't know at what price. Anyway, they're doing a good job. But I think you need to be careful in your investment and
as a normal entrepreneur, right?
But many people, there is a saying, and in the China hands, or in the people speak about China, they many say that many foreigners, when they come to China, they lose their common sense. It's either they are so much afraid they just come as a tourist, or they go crazy. It's very rare. The middle range is very rare.
In my opinion, for example, for me, it was like, okay, you need to have a strong objective that this is the road to go for you. Yeah. So then you will also get your mentality of, hey, I'm everything that I face, I will learn something from it to do it better next time. So you sign up for a road which will be bumpy. And you want that to eventually succeed. And that will be the middle line. And most of the people are not up to for that. They don't sign up front for that, right?
Wait. It's not easy, but there are a lot of potential, and a lot of brands came to China. If my brand, my best-selling brand, Pink Killer, it's a good beer from a small, medium-sized brewery, which we're not selling very well in Belgium. Yeah. And when I came to that company, I say, "Is that your bestseller beer?" I don't believe it. Yeah. In Belgium, we never sell that beer.
And there comes the opportunity, right?
So definitely, it's something. Maybe I don't know if we can reach another point. An advice to is the packaging.
Packaging. Okay.
Packaging is key, much more than in Europe.
Okay.
In Europe, people, especially in Belgium, people look at value, at the product itself. They know about the product. They know about chocolate. They know about beer, and they know that this chocolate is good and this is not good. They know already. The packaging is on top. Here is the opposite. People don't know essentially about chocolate or beer, very little, and they go for the packaging. So we have a very cute packaging with Pink Killer, and
it's fun to buy. Maybe
it's fun. The lady loves it. It's cute. It's a big dog on it. And in Europe, people would say that's not serious. This packaging.
We go for the conservative labels and brands. Voilà. Right? So if it looks trustable, it's okay.
No. So the American craft beer now are very successful. Okay. Because they even come now with very colorful cans. It's kind of funny because cans doesn't bring any value to a beer. No. Craft beer in a can it used to be taboo.
Normally we would say it's not craft beer.
It's not craft beer, but they managed to sell craft beer in cans with fantastic packaging, all kind of colors and new thing, and that's what China wants. So in Europe, no, this is a no. Nobody's going to do that. If you don't tell about that, they say you're crazy.
Yeah.
So packaging is key. When we sold Côte d'Or 20 years ago, Côte d'Or is a superb chocolate. But the packaging usually doesn't suit the market.
Because of the ignorance of the market and ignorance.
And the consumption behavior, because they consume less chocolate than we do. So people will not buy a big piece; they will try to buy a small piece. And
they don't buy it because of the chocolate actually. They buy it to try
or to give away.
There comes the packaging.
In the packaging again.
Okay. And other subjects that a food and beverage brand should think about when they go to China, like outside of the packaging?
The taste, naturally. It's a bit stupid to take, but the taste, because the
local taste.
The local taste. They prefer the Chinese beer are quite light, from 3 to 4 degrees, roughly. They're a bit sweet. The weather is very hot, so people cannot drink an 8-degree beer at lunch 2-3. It's impossible. So you have to, if you want to sell high volume beer, the best possibility for us in Belgium is a white beer, which is very refreshing in the summer.
It's doing well also.
It's doing well. It's our best seller. It's the white beers. And also sweet, though the fruity beer, the cider is a big fashion now. For a couple of years. The too bitter, there's a double side to it. You have IPA, which is the rage. It's an English tradition, Indian Pale Ale. A lot of hops, very bitter. And this is good for the yuppies, I call that. The people will just look for that trend. Super hoppy, super bitter, the better bitter, the more bitter, the better. But the other people, Mr. Everybody, will not like that. No. So like a Stella Artois, which is a quite bitter lager, is too bitter. So unless you go to the really connoisseurs, then yes. but Mr. Everybody, if you drink Qingdao, it's even quite bitter, but if you drink some other beer, it's very lighty. It's like American beer, basically.
Like Zhujiang, for example, is a good
example.
Yeah. So you're saying like you know the taste or know actually what the Chinese client wants because it's totally different from what it could be in Europe.
But it changed, huh?
Yeah,
it changed. Huh? Nobody would have believed that people can sell an IPA 5 years ago. Huh?
No,
It was so bitter. They say you're not selling bitter, but China changed very quickly. That's another thing. The consumption habit and that's the fun part of it. Yeah. It's tough, but it's also fun.
The opportunity, the ratio
it's always
of development.
It's good and bad. Huh?
Yeah.
There are opportunities, definitely.
You can relate to things that we named before, right? The opportunities, the ratio of development. That you need to stick to stay, because it could be that these years it's difficult and it could be sky high in a few years later.
Even when you think about it, when we left the famous company Van der Gaten, which I founded, we left for different reasons, because it's a Chinese story. I mean, we can talk about the Chinese story maybe, just as an example from that. Many people have been 20 years or 25 years, have been one day tricked by their Chinese partner. This is typical. You can read a book about that, there's a book. And what happens is, but no, we don't have to do that. What happens is that initially, people who do wholesale or import cannot do it.
No.
So we need to have a Chinese guy who is officially the owner. Yeah. And you hope that this owner will not one day take over the company.
Okay,
so that happened.
Yeah.
Typical.
Yeah.
But in many joint venture we're like that in the past.
Yeah. And now,
so I know you can do 100% wholesale. You can do importing yourself. So
and it will only develop more and will be open more.
So basically, no, you don't have that risk so much of being taken over by your partner employee.
Tend to be the partner.
Yeah. So that's a way.
But that in mind, this is a quite nice thing, because there's a characteristic of what it was, the Chinese way of doing business, right? That you're really cautious of, because sometimes these kind of situations would be there. So what kind of characteristics are typical Chinese in the way of doing business that you think is key to understand?
I'm sure I'm not the first one. It's about the guanxi.
Relationship.
The relationship. Right? And this is the fun part also, is that the Chinese value much more relationship than sometimes products or contracts.
Yeah. Now, give you an example. I had with another guest. Indeed, I said, like, in Europe, we trust already the company that is rated the first at the Google search results, right? And here, they really need to meet you. They need to have a feeling with you. They need to know where you come from, and you need to know where they come from, and then it is possible.
Yes, right? yes. They start to look a little bit about your company credential naturally, but the people relationship is key. The people pass before the law, the people pass before the product, the contract. So it's a nice part. This is a bit closer to Europe than America, where America is all about contracts, and here we are more about people thing. Do we want to work together or not? Yeah. It's a key issue.
And do you think, like, there is of course a relationship to create a cell, but does it also, this relationship, how does it benefit in later on in the trade? Like is that, if we talk about contracts, you have an exclusivity contract, but in another way, do these relationships are almost that strong as a contract would be when you commit to each other for a certain
no, the relationship is stronger than the contract. Yeah. The contract is in fact not worth much. It's something, China, not worth much. You have to realize they can change and I didn't want to say that, I didn't want that, and no, not yet. I mean, well, it's changing more every year, but the value of a contract is not very much.
Compared to relationship, it is not.
There's no comparison. Although they might want you to sign a very tough contract with a lot of clauses, and that's the value we bring to foreign supplier to China, is that many times the foreign suppliers say this contract I will never sign because they want this, they want arbitration in China. We don't want. They want that. And we sometimes be in the in-between because we know this guy, we have a relationship. So although these clauses are sometimes terrible, we say anyway, they're never going to enforce it.
No. Just because of the relationship you have.
Yes, and then they will say so much, it will be so much problem for them to put it in place that they will try to find a solution before.
Yeah.
I think when in China you start to go to the tribunal, you are in big problem.
Yeah, but you're already far in the process. What you say, you probably had already 5 times that you could solve a problem or had a solution indeed.
Yeah. So a contract is more like a safety net for them.
Yeah, maybe to make clear what is expected from all, and then eventually you can, move yourself through. Okay. Can I say it in this way?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect. Okay, what did you, for example, you are so long here already, so you have lots of contacts.
Yes.
So I fully believe and follow you at the moment. You say relationships are key, and I think you have also great relationships already, especially if.
But it changed. We don't have to be cocky about relationship change. I mean, with the time. People change so quickly from one business to the other. Yeah,
do businesses mostly stay because you have a good relationship with someone? But it's maybe also an issue. Like, okay, you build up a relationship and suddenly the company is gone. Okay,
that happens. Yeah. That happens. So you can have people move. Depend what age naturally, the stability of the person, whether it's a young people or established people. But relationships key. Some people say that the Chinese they should do the university in China to develop the relationship.
Yeah,
not for the study.
I must say in certain points of my experiences, like I am not coming from a relationship kind of environment. I've been growing up in Holland, of course. And of course, you have also we have some affiliation with relationships, but the extreme way of how we would say it is extreme. Here it is normal.
Right.
You learn a lot, and you should actually be very aware of what the actual value of a relationship is and how you maintain those relationships. Because there are lots of entrepreneurs coming here to China, and they think, we should pass by once because then we have a relationship, but it doesn't work like that.
No, it's not the end of the game, huh?
Yeah.
As I say, what level of relationship do you have? Is it really useful? Does this guy have the power that he says? So be very cautious about that. Huh? It's not going to solve all your problem.
No.
And it's not a question of giving money. That's not sometimes the thing. The guy who helps us most is not because of the money. No. So it's very complex.
Yeah.
It's a very super complex issue.
It's a road of experience, right?
Yeah. But it's a key. But it's a super complex. It's not just I have a relationship and then it will fix all my problems.
No. Yeah. What is a relationship? And that's what you need to experience, of course. Yeah.
You have different levels.
Yeah.
How do you develop it? How do you maintain it? With who? What kind of people?
Yeah. Okay.
We can write a book about it. I guess.
You can for sure.
Yeah, but it would be not so easy because it's really part of the Chinese culture.
Yeah.
It's so complex.
No, if you want to do business here, it seems for me quite
primary
that you understand where it comes from.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you say you can write a book about it.
Yeah.
So if you could write in that book, what did you learn from China, like in your whole period? Like that you really think like this is what I really learned in business perspective, but also in personal perspective. Like you became also a bit Chinese. How would you describe this being Chinese?
I think that the speed of the change. We in Europe we don't want to change in fact. When in France people don't want to change. They say we have this advantage, we want it for life, which is impossible, unfortunately. So we keep changing. China we never expect that China would be at this level of development. They keep changing. I mean, they in terms of on the shopping experience. Me coming from Carrefour, Carrefour is now closing stores in China, and not only them, everybody is closing stores. So people buying more and more online. Even different way online, even the lunch, people buy their lunch online.
Yeah.
I mean, they already passed us in Europe, I mean, in terms of shopping experience. So, and they keep going, they keep changing. So we that's a problem in Europe. We don't evaluate, and also the ambitions of the people.
Yeah,
people are very ambitious. The people want to work more. They want to make more money, work more. Yeah. And a lot of time in the factories, people they want to find factory who give them overtime.
No, that's key. Most
so
of the
in China, in Europe, they you exploit them. Poor guys have to do overtime.
But they want to work. They want
it's a totally different approach.
If you don't have overtime, I don't come.
They don't come.
Yeah.
So in Europe, people want to work 4/5 of the time, not a full time. So I have more time for my private life. Here is the opposite. I want to work more to make more.
And you also
you don't know whether it's good or not, but it's a totally different approach of life.
And you also became, that's what you learned also, it's like you also became a bit like that.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's a good thing.
Eventually it shaped you as a person, right? So
but it's true that we have definitely a quality of life in Belgium that we don't have in China.
No.
Until when, I don't know, but we have it.
Yeah.
And it's very, it was a fantastic experience to see this change and
to be part of it.
I think it's unique in the world to have a country going from nothing to being almost a first world power in 40 years.
I will be.
It's an exciting experience, basically.
That you also have been part of that, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So eventually, what are your plans? Like what?
The plans is first to continue in that field. But I would say our dream of our project is definitely to open beer shops.
Okay.
And
beer shops, right?
Yeah. And then this beer shop should be a bit linked to some kind of if you knew the concept of remar, it's basically a shop being a warehouse who can deliver to the neighborhood. That would be perfect, because that's a new way of shopping, and also it makes sense. You have a small warehouse all over China, and then can be used as retail stores, but also a small warehouse for the bars around and for the individuals. Okay. And push the beer culture from Belgium mostly, and push that concept. Yeah. But that we need investors, and we need to have a strong concept, and we are on the way, but we are not there.
Okay. But this is your objective, right?
That's the objective. We feel that's the best way to push our product. Okay. To have our own retail stores, and so that we can really push the beer culture and the beer products the best.
Okay, great. Thank you, Baudouin.
Welcome. It was fun to talk.
Perfect. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.